Welcome back to the show. Our next guest, David Waugh, will be discussing with us the concept of voice dialogue, or the psychology of the selves and aware ego, a unique form of self-actualization. David is the director of Elements Counseling in Vancouver and has over 20 years training and experience in psycho-spiritual development. Welcome to the show, David.
Thank you.
David, tell me a little bit about your background and the type of work that you do.
Well, I'm a counselor, and like many counselors, I've been trained in many different methods, and voice dialogue is one of the methods I've been trained in. And it's one I really like because I can teach people to use it themselves for personal growth, use it in their relationships, and it's used in many different modalities or different fields, not just counseling. So it's a really good tool for growth and personal use.
Now, what was it about voice dialogue that intrigued you about the concept?
Well, the first time I heard about it, actually it was the second time I heard about it, but it was out of a need that I had. My wife and I were going through some challenges in our marriage, and I heard an interview with the founders, Doctors Hal and Sidra Stone. And since for 20 years I've studied a lot of really skilled teachers, I recognized two masters. And what I really liked about them is how humble they were. They were talking about their own relationship and how they both get triggered by each other, and they're both psychologists, so you know they kind of are expected to know quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But they found that even though they were psychologists, there were different kinds of psychologists, and sort of like two different priests of different religions in a way. It was like they had to get together and to work with their children, work with their finances. So I was really impressed with their humility and how challenging relationships are. So voice dialogue came as a kind of gift from their own relationship when they started going, what are the patterns that trigger us as a couple? Mm-hmm. And when my wife and I saw that, we just thought, wow, these people, like Hal's, I think 80 now, and Sidra's about 70, and they're so alive and passionate. It's really heartwarming to see this couple who have now created a real international community of teachers teaching them what they found as a gift through their relationship for mm-hmm. over 30 years now.
Now, what is voice dialogue?
Well, they call it the psychology of the selves and the aware ego, and it's a philosophy and a method. And the philosophy, as the introduction was saying, it's a psycho-spiritual philosophy. So in the philosophy, what they work with is three different levels of consciousness. Okay. The first level is pure awareness. So an example of that is, right now, you and I appear to be separate. And if I think I am breathing, and you think you're breathing, mm-hmm. that's partly true, but on another level, we're being breathed. So if you stop for a second and just feel that, you know, am I consciously breathing? No, actually, I'm being breathed. There's some sort of intelligence in the universe that's breathing us. Mm-hmm. A great mystery called by many names, but Hal and Sidra like to just call it pure awareness. Mm-hmm. So it establishes like a third perspective in a relationship. Okay. And their great gift is they have really redefined relationship as a path. Mm-hmm. And they see relationship as the teacher, healer, and guide. Okay. If the two individuals can kind of look to this third other presence, which they call pure awareness, as a way to heal their relationship. Mm-hmm. So that's the first level, is pure awareness. Mm-hmm. The other level is what we commonly call the ego. Okay. But they've further differentiated the ego into the selves. Now this is the psychology of the selves. And the idea is that I know that you're a mother, and you're also a daughter to your parents, mm-hmm. you're a wife to your husband. And so right away there's three different selves. Of course. And then there's GB, the interviewer, mm-hmm. you know, and your job. So there's four. And a student, there's five. And so the idea is that we think of the ego as one thing, but Hal and Sidra have further differentiated and said those selves are the selves you know about, so they call that your operating ego. Okay. And there's selves that we disown or we don't know much about, And often they show up in people we're either attracted to or we find a bit repulsive. And sometimes they show up in dreams. So we have a dream of somebody that we find scary, or we find really somebody that we would admire. So the ego consists of this whole family of selves. So that's the other level.
Okay.
And then the third level that they've created is what they call the aware ego. And the aware ego is this place where we can draw from pure awareness, and then we can see these selves that we have, and then we can make some choice in the world around it. Because pure awareness is like a witness in the meditation traditions. It sees everything, but doesn't judge, just accepts everything.
Now, David, if we backtrack for just a moment, we talked about being breathed. Could you help me define that a little bit more? What does it mean to be being breathed?
Well, it's best experienced. Like if in this moment you think, okay, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. That's an experience if you follow the breath. But then who's this I who's breathing? If you switch that around, and on the in-breath, you imagine that some kind of intelligence of the universe is actually breathing into you. And then as the breath goes out, it's now breathing in. It completely flips everything right around.
True enough. Definitely a different lens to look at.
In that moment, the I sort of disappears.
And then what would that objectivity give us?
This objective witness. The witness just sees all the different voices in me. For example, I met a woman this week, and 3 times I heard her say, "Oh, I'm so stupid." And so in that statement, when you're working with a voice dialogue facilitator, I hear that comment and I feel compassion for her feeling that way, but I'm also trying to say to myself, which voices in her just spoke? So there's the I feel so stupid. So there's a part of her that judges her, we call the inner critic. And then there's the part of her who feels criticized. The one who feels, now kind of beaten up by this other voice inside of her. So in that simple statement, there's 2 selves in there. And usually the one that's criticizing her is learned behavior that she learned growing up in some way through certain authority figures. So with awareness, this other perspective, she can learn to see, oh wow, I'm actually criticizing myself, one of myselves. And this in voice dialogue, the method part of it is where we actually separate out. I think the word analysis means something like, teasing out a part of the psyche and then reintegrating it. So if I was working with that woman, for example, and we can even try that, I would get her to, first if she was a mother, say, this is the safest way to do it, is you work first with the part of her personality she's most identified with. So if she was telling me about her children, then we would establish a center position. Like say if we were working with you, Jeevee, I'm speaking with Jeevee, and you're a multi-dimensional person, like this diamond with many facets. But one of the facets of you is called mother. So then you would just move over to another position, somewhere in the room, maybe right beside you. And now I would just, sort of like you as an interviewer, I would interview the mother and I would find out about her. What role she plays in your life, what gifts that she brings to your life, especially around, mothering your children. And maybe she tends to mother other people too. And maybe she feels kind of exhausted because she's on 24/7. She's always mothering. And so, in a way, she's over there, but awareness is witnessing this. Your awareness is witnessing that. So when I've finished talking with her a bit, then I'll have you move back to the center. And now you're Jeevee again. But then we'll put a cushion there, perhaps, to represent this mother in you. And in that moment, usually we work a bit with energy and making some space. Because maybe someone's identified with being a mother for 30 years. In that moment, all of a sudden there's a little bit of space, a little bit of peace.